like intimidating way, more like
Mhm.
magnetism.
Yeah.
Well, that, my friend, could be what David R. Hawkins calls power.
Right.
His book, Power versus Force. That's our deep dive today.
Okay. Okay.
We're going to unpack how these terms, because we use them kind of interchangeably in everyday life,
Yeah.
but they have a whole different meaning in this context.
Yeah.
And how seeing that difference can impact, well, everything.
Yeah. It's definitely deeper than just, trying to strong arm your way through a meeting at work.
Right.
Or hoping that just like good vibes are going to win the day. Hawkins would say that, our actions, even our thoughts, they resonate with a certain energy.
Okay.
And that energy is either what he would call force or true power.
So this isn't about who brings the donuts to the meeting. It's there's something more to it.
Exactly.
So let's start with this idea of force. What does it actually mean to operate from a place of force? It sounds a little Star Wars-y.
Right. Not quite lightsabers.
Okay.
But think of it as any kind of outward pressure that you use to try to get your desired outcome. So it's about control,
Okay.
manipulation, even dominance.
So is it like that boss everyone's kind of terrified of?
Exactly. That micromanaging boss who makes everyone's hair stand on end.
Yeah.
That's force.
Yeah.
Or, that feeling you get when you just have to check social media, even when you're swamped?
Oh, yeah.
The algorithms, they're designed to hook you.
Right.
So that's force at play too.
So it's not always this overt thing. It's not always a dictator in a history book.
Exactly. It can be subtle. And honestly, a lot of times it's not even a conscious choice.
Right.
It's more like a pattern that we kind of fall into because, let's face it, sometimes forcing our way through, it just seems easier.
In the moment.
Yeah, in the moment. But Hawkins would argue that force, it always creates resistance. Think about dictatorships.
Okay.
They eventually crumble, right?
Yeah.
Because they have to use so much force to maintain that control.
Right.
It's unstable.
So how does power, like Hawkins defines it, how does that counter that?
Power, in this sense, it's about alignment with truth and integrity. Think of it like your own inner compass, kind of guiding you.
Right.
And it's not about overpowering other people. It's about leading with your authenticity, compassion. The influence that comes with true power, that's what's magnetic.
So force is that, like micromanaging boss that everyone's scared of.
Right.
Power is the leader that everyone actually wants to follow.
Yeah, spot on. Think about someone like Nelson Mandela.
Okay.
He didn't exactly rise to prominence through aggression and manipulation, right? It was his empathy.
Yeah.
His unwavering commitment to justice, even after being unjustly imprisoned for decades.
Right.
That's powerful. It resonates with something deep inside of us, that desire for authenticity.
It's a very different energy. You can almost feel it. But if we're talking about a spectrum here, how do you even begin to measure something as intangible as levels of consciousness?
Well, this is where his map of consciousness comes in.
Okay.
Now, this might sound a little out there.
Okay.
But he proposed this scale. It ranges from 1 to 1,000, and he says it maps all these different levels of human consciousness.
Okay.
And their corresponding energy levels.
So like a consciousness ruler.
Kinda, yeah. And he claimed to calibrate these levels through, get this, kinesiology.
Kinesiology.
Yeah, basically muscle testing.
Interesting.
Which, admittedly, this is where some people start to raise an eyebrow.
Yeah.
They get a little skeptical.
A little skeptical. So tell me a little bit more about this map. Where do things like anger, despair, where do they fall on this spectrum?
Okay, so imagine an emotional ladder.
Okay.
At the very bottom, you've got shame, guilt. Then as you move up, you hit apathy, grief, fear, anger.
So those are all...
Those lower levels, those are all steeped in force, according to Hawkins.
Interesting.
Driven by survival instincts, ego that need to control. But as you climb higher, you encounter things like courage, willingness, acceptance.
Okay.
This is where true power starts to show up.
So it's not about never feeling anger. It's about understanding maybe where it's coming from or where it's keeping us stuck.
Exactly. Awareness is key. And Hawkins suggests that courage, which he says calibrates at around 200 on his scale.
Okay.
That's the turning point. From force-based living to one that's more characterized by power.
So you need a little courage to level up.
You got it. It's not just about slapping on a happy face.
Right.
It takes guts. It's about facing those uncomfortable emotions, owning your truth, making choices that actually reflect your values, even when it's tough.
Even when it's tough.
And I think that's important because we might think operating from fear gives me a sense of control. but it's really keeping us from our true potential.
Courage is like the bridge to power.
I like that.
I like that. But this can't just be about, us as individuals.
Right.
These are energies that we all kind of embody. How does this play out in our relationships?
Outdoors.
Even on a larger scale?
Yeah, that's what makes it so relevant, right? Imagine a romantic relationship where one person always has to be in control,
Yeah.
dictating every decision.
Right.
That's force,
Ooh,
right?
that's force.
And that's going to breed resentment, conflict.
Yeah. You're not really connecting as equals. You're just battling for who's on top.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now imagine that same relationship, but both people are coming to the table with honesty, respect for each other, and they're communicating openly.
Okay.
Now, that doesn't mean they're always going to agree,
Right.
but it creates a space for true connection, even growth.
Yeah.
And that's the power of authenticity, choosing understanding over control.
And this applies to leadership too, right? Like that whole command and control style that's probably not doing so well on the old map of consciousness. And this applies to leadership too, right? Like that whole command and control style,
Yeah.
that's probably not doing so well on the old map of consciousness.
You got it. Think about it. The leader who inspires their team gets everyone on board with the same vision. That's going to be a way more positive and productive environment than one with, like, a ruler who everyone's scared of.
Wow. Right. Where everyone feels like they're walking on eggshells all the time. It's exhausting.
Exactly. And, it's not just individual people or even companies. Think about this whole idea of force versus power playing out on, like, a global scale.
Oh, wow.
Diplomacy, right.
Yeah.
Seeking common ground, working together. Those are all about power.
Instead of just trying to force your way into getting what you want.
Exactly. Conflict, aggression, always having to be on top. Those are all, like, classic force.
So choosing power over force. It's about trying to make things better for everyone, not just yourself.
Yeah. It's recognizing that we're all connected instead of just out for ourselves.
Powerful stuff.
Yeah.
But I got to ask, did Hawkins ever talk about the people who didn't buy all this? Because this whole calibrating consciousness thing, it's a little out there.
Yeah. Some people definitely found the whole calibration thing a little hard to swallow, and that's okay.
Right.
Not every theory is going to resonate with everyone. But I think the important thing here, even if you're not sure about the numbers, is that there is a difference between force and power.
Okay.
And that difference shows up in our lives,
Yeah.
our choices, how we treat other people. It gives us a way to look at ourselves, how we're living.
Being more intentional.
Exactly.
So it's not just what we're doing, but why.
Right. It's like noticing when you're about to react to something out of habit, Like when you're about to force your will on a situation and just asking, hold on, what would it look like to come at this from a place of power?
So instead of trying to control everything, you're choosing understanding. Authenticity, not manipulation. It's definitely challenging. But just talking about this has given me a lot to think about. It's definitely challenging. But just talking about this has given me a lot to think about.
And that's the beauty of it. It's not about being perfect, right? It's about self-reflection.
Okay.
Making those choices that line up with what you believe in.
Yeah.
And, trying to make the world a better place, a place where we can all connect.
So we're not just focused on, like, how do I get ahead?
Right, exactly.
It's about making genuine progress, but together.
Exactly.
This has been really powerful stuff. So as you go about your day, ask yourself, am I coming at this from force or power?
That's the question.
Whether it's work, relationships, your goals.
Yeah.
What would it take to, to shift to that magnetic energy, that authenticity that draws people in, instead of pushing them away?
Exactly.
Keep asking that question. And until next time, happy diving.